Hello, 8th graders. We're continuing our read of The Greatest Treasure Hunt in History, the story of the Monuments Men. And we are on page 140. There's a photo on this page of two of the Monuments Men, or actually one of the Monuments Men and his driver. So Dean Keller and his friend and driver, Charlie Bernholtz. And this is Florence, Italy, Christmas time, 1944. After more than 15 months away from home, Dean Keller needed a friend. While standing in line for mail in Florence, he found one. T5, Charlie Bernholtz, had just completed an assignment as driver for a senior officer relieved of duty. Keller liked his easygoing manner and considered his experience driving on Italian roads an asset. Within days, he arranged for Bernholtz to become his driver. Bernholtz had another quality that Keller admired. He was a quiet hero, one of the boys. Before becoming a monuments man, Bernholtz had pulled a severely wounded soldier from a burning truck filled with ammunition. He could have called it quits after dragging the man to safety. Instead, he went back to the truck again to check for other survivors. It was all there in his personnel file, along with a copy of his Bronze Star. Citation signed by Lieutenant General Mark Clark. As Christmas neared, Keller and Bernholtz used their Jeep to transport the poor children of Florence and their parents to the Allied Forces Christmas program. Each trip pulled at Keller's heartstrings. Each little boy reminded him of Dino. But the program provided a temporary escape from the hardships of war for the people of Florence and the soldiers helping to rebuild the city, and for that, he was grateful. Reading in Stars and Stripes, the American military newspaper, about the tough fight the boys were having in the Ardennes forest, tempered any holiday celebration. Keller tried to compensate for his second Christmas away from Kathy and Dino by drawing scenes of Santa Claus delivering gifts and Dino, his face alight, opening them on Christmas morning. Somehow, seeing an image of Dino holding an oversized present made him feel a bit closer to home, even if it was a sketch of a make-believe scene that he had drawn. On Christmas Day, Keller sat down to write Kathy and their son. He spent a while searching for the right words. Allaying her concern about his safety was always at the top of the list, especially with the news of the Ardennes offensive filling the headlines. Censors limited what he could say about his work. A thought crossed his mind, one that seemed just right, and he began to write. Today is Christmas, and my first thoughts are with you and Dean. As I write, the roar of tanks and heavy vehicles is in the air. Some boys will eat a turkey leg in a pup tent or in a foxhole. Some will die this day. Downstairs, the radio has just come on, and someone is singing a carol. This is my Christmas, a big one, filled with the highest ideals man is capable of. The end of that chapter. These are the drawings that Keller did. He sent many of these to his son. And they were sort of like, almost like editorial cartoons that we would think of today, where a person is drawing, but it's not just a comic, you know, it's with a purpose and to share a message. And he certainly was. Chapter 11, Small Victories, page 145. Near Givet, France, January 1945. By the end of January, the fight in the Ardennes forest, dubbed the Battle of the Bulge, had ended. Hitler had gambled that in one bold move he could force the Western Allies out of the war. If only he could blast through the Allied line and get behind them, he would surround enough of Eisenhower's forces to convince American and British leaders to negotiate a peace. If he could do that, it would free his hands in Western Europe and allow him to concentrate on the Soviets in the East. German forces did push a large bulge in the front line, but Western Allied forces quickly recovered, ending Nazi Germany's offensive capability. The cost was horrifying. Almost 20,000 American boys lay dead. Perhaps as many as 80,000 were wounded or missing. Casualties meant the fighting armies needed replacements. And that's where 19-year-old Private Harry Erlinger and 2,500 other American soldiers were headed. The trucks filled with replacement troops provided no real protection from the record cold temperatures. Only the bodily warmth of 25 soldiers crammed shoulder to shoulder inside each of the 100 trucks made any difference. And even then, it was slight. But the bitter weather concerned Harry far less than fighting, far less than figuring out how to stay alive. Soon they would be in battle on German soil, where the speed of the previous month's advances had ground to a crawl, and every yard gained would cost some Allied soldier his life. Harry had been born in Germany, but he certainly didn't want to die there. For centuries, Ettlingers had lived in the town of Karlsruhe in southwest Germany. In fact, their last name derived from the nearby town of Ettlingen, where Harry's ancestors had been born. Harry grew up in a prominent family of retail and wholesale merchants who had built successful businesses despite anti-Semitic laws that prevented Jews from owning farmland and barred them from trade guilds. Harry didn't see himself as being different from other boys until he was banned from the local sports association in 1933, the year Adolf Hitler rose to power as Chancellor of Germany. Even then, the politics of hate and intolerance didn't mean much to a 7-year-old boy. But that changed 2 years later at the start of 5th grade, when Harry's grades dropped precipitously. One of only 2 Jews in his class of 45 students, Harry had been forced to sit in the back of the classroom, not because of some new regulation, but due to the prejudice of his teachers. In 1937, a nationwide boycott of Jewish-owned enterprises, which had started 4 years earlier, finally forced the Ettlinger family business into bankruptcy. Harry didn't understand a lot about business, but he certainly remembered the time he had a bicycle accident and reached the hospital only to be denied admission. Even 9-year-old boys couldn't escape the hatred of the times. Nazi Germany had effectively declared war on its own people if they were Jews, immigrants, gay, or mentally ill. Harry's parents, like so many of their family friends, realized the time had come to leave their homeland. But where could they go? Many countries did not welcome the sudden increase in immigration requests from German Jews. Switzerland, Great Britain, France, and the United States had each denied the Ettlingers' applications. Still, they tried again. In early May 1938, Harry's parents received notification that their second request to immigrate to the United States had been approved. But before leaving, Harry had to celebrate his bar mitzvah, a rite of passage ceremony for 13-year-old Jewish boys when they publicly become accountable for their actions. With the drums of war beating more loudly, waiting until their son's 13th birthday presented too great a risk. So Harry's parents advanced the date of his bar mitzvah several times. At the end of September 1938, Harry entered adulthood in Karlsruhe's beautiful Kronenstrasse synagogue. The family departed Germany for the United States the following day, and just in time. In less than 2 months, the Nazis used the assassination of a German diplomat as an excuse to declare open war on Germany's Jews. On November 9th, Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, stormtroopers and Hitler Youth destroyed 7,000 owned businesses and 200 synagogues, including the one in Karlsruhe that had welcomed Harry Ettlinger into adulthood, the last bar mitzvah celebrated in the city during the Nazi era. This is a picture of that synagogue. I'm going to stop there. This is such a compelling book, and it's even more compelling because it's a true story. It's a true story of bravery on the part of these men and thousands of others. And it's a compelling story because of the deep sadness as we think about the families and children and just thousands of individuals whose lives were dramatically changed forever as a result of Hitler's regime. So this is a compelling book, historical, and I hope you're reading along with me. And if you haven't had an opportunity to read every chapter, please go back and look at the YouTube readings and catch up. And next time we'll begin on page 148. Thank you so much, 8th graders.